Mr. Speaker, I concede that my gallant men and women here are not up to the 2/3 onerous threshold. That is why my colleagues opposite must let their vote count to save this country and for us to goodbye and exit the Honorable Minister for Finance from doing any further harm to the Ghanaian economy. Mr. Speaker, apart from that, inflation. He inherited inflation of 15.4%. Today it's 40.4%. Mr. Speaker, the exchange rate of the cedi, they inherited $1 at 4 Ghana cedis and indicated to all of us that they have the key to arrest the depreciation of the cedi. Today the cedi is falling and suffering from an epileptic fall. They've lost control of the depreciation. $1 is to 15 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, and when you come to unemployment, probably it has increased from 5.53% to 13.9%. Mr. Speaker, so what has he to show? We are told that he did well, and that we are told that we should blame COVID and Ukraine. Did you borrow to support Ukraine? Did you borrow to support Ukraine? Did you borrow to support Ukraine? And you want us to accept that your reckless and irresponsible borrowing, which has led us to where we are. We are in a ditch. Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian economy is in a ditch. Accept it or not, you may have to restructure debt in order to sustain this economy in the next 2-3 years. I heard the President, Mr. Speaker, speak to the nation and say that there will be no haircut. There will be, and there will be a barber of a sort. That barber may be Scampi barber. It will happen, and it will happen to investment, it will happen to savings, it will happen to bonds that have been issued. Even independent power producers are likely to suffer a restructuring of the debt because how much you owe is colossal. Mr. Speaker, his incompetence manifestly even in this house when he came and said that we should approve for him a Sino Hydro loan of 600 million US dollars to undertake a number of projects. And Mr. Speaker, he misled this house when he said butter, tomatoes in exchange for pepper. Where is your pepper in exchange of the tomatoes you borrowed? Reality have dawned on them, and therefore Sino Hydro is due for payment, and you must pay. You are not going to be able to pay with the bauxite which is unprocessed, which is still underground, that you don't know the road or the railway leading to the Sino Hydro, the bauxite site. Mr. Speaker, it is the Honorable Minister of Finance who came here and said that we should do that for him. Initially, he even wanted $2 billion in barter. So barter, my simple economics, is exchange of goods for goods. Where is your goods? In exchange for the 646 million US dollars you got from the Chinese. A mark of the incompetence. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana, sacred institution, independent institution, they are required. Part of the external credit facility agreement they inherited from the IMF was to allow for some 10% Bank of Ghana financing in times of emergency. But we work towards 0% financing from the Bank of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the figures available to me, I see that probably even for 2022, the Bank of Ghana probably would have spent some 17.5 billion, about 24%, which exceeds the 10% threshold. That's breach of law. And probably for 2021, about 19% breach of law. But what is even more important, what kind of reserve did you inherit? And what is the state of our reserve? Are we able tomorrow to guarantee that economic and essential social and economic services can be provided for the Ghanaian? Today, Mr. Speaker, I use just petroleum prices. When they were in opposition, they were good at it. They were carrying jerrycans and saying that when they come, we will reduce the prices of petroleum products. Have you reduced it? Have you reduced it? Have you reduced it? And said it was some nuisance tax. Mr. Speaker, they benefited from President Mohamed's ESLA, which has raked in some 6.9 billion. Yet again, smart economics, and that's what is failing them. They have collateralized John Dramani Mohamed's ESLA for the next 10 years. So from today up to 2035, ESLA will be used to be servicing debt. That's what you've done. Yet you said it was a nuisance tax. It's been helpful. At least it's giving you a collateral and a guarantee. Mr. Speaker, so we are on this side. We do not see plausible plans for redemption. When we hear the president speaks that by 2028, debt to GDP will be 55%, we do not know where he will be. We do not know what responsibility will be, the weight of responsibility that will be on him to lead us as a country. Mr. Speaker, we are told the president promised God a national cathedral. No problem with it. Ghana is one of the respected societies in the world when it comes to religious tolerance and religious coexistence. Muslims and Christians alike, we respect each other. But when you promise God, honor it, and honor it by respecting process. If you approve 199 million for the construction of a cathedral without parliamentary approval, is that honor to God? Because you haven't followed proper procedure. God wants you to spend in honor, and the church in honor. You don't want a day for somebody to picket around the cathedral and say that public funds was used and justifiable for it. That itself will not help. Mr. Speaker, we refuse to be lured by the false hopes they are creating. They don't provide any indemnity for investors against political and regulatory risk. We've seen the president rehash some of his own words, that property rate will be introduced. You came here in a budget statement of 2022. You said in January, property rate. So, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister for Finance should know that when he comes to read the budget statement, we take it seriously. Things that you haven't been able to do in 6 years, you want us to trust and believe you that you do it in 2 years. We simply don't trust you, and we simply don't believe you, and we simply want you out. So that, where are the men, Mr. Speaker? Where are the men? You said you had men. Mr. Speaker, where are Mr. Speaker, where are the men? Particularly when I hear the deputy leader who wants to reduce this August House to a court of law. This is not court. This is the Parliament of Ghana. And in the Parliament of Ghana, the Minister of State will be given, and I trust the judgment of Mr. Speaker, to fully defend himself. If he's not able to be here, he has to explain, because 82 provides that adequate notice is given. That has been done to him, and he's a Minister of State, Minister of this Republic, answerable and accountable to this Parliament, and he ought to answer to us as a Parliament. Mr. Speaker, now President, and as you held them today, Mr. Speaker, let your vote count. You were the same people in 1999 who, arising out of the Gulf War, when the economy of Ghana got bad, then led by Dr. Konedo Apraku, Mr. Speaker, this is why you were helping them. I have the Hansard for purpose of record. So when I see you want to dance differently to the same tune, then it means that you don't know how to dance. Your tune and dance to the same tune must be the same. Mr. Speaker, I quote, 10th November 1999, Dr. K.K. Apraku, member for Offensive North, said, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House, recognizing the serious economic crisis, Speaker, so I borrow his words, and I borrow from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We have a major economic crisis. The President accepts it, the Minister accepts it. Mr. Speaker, I'm reading full. He's reading it. That has resulted from the incompetence and mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy by the Minister of Finance, hereby calls on the Minister of Finance to resign. Unquote. We are doing about the same. Except that, Mr. Speaker, we have gone further to give it the weight of the Constitution, due process. That is why we are invoking Article 82. We know we do not have the numbers, Mr. Speaker. We will rely on you, and we want to rely on the majority, including the leader of government business. That, Mr. Speaker, on this day, Mr. Speaker, you have consulted your constituents. This Parliament has a duty to reflect the aspirations and needs of the Ghanaian people. And the Ghanaian people are reeling under exacerbated hardship and want this Parliament united by consensus to stand with the people of Ghana in bidding farewell and goodbye to the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. So, Mr. Speaker, when I say where are the men, you have the men. Now you are telling us that he wants to come by a lawyer. Lawyer, when the Honorable Chairman is here, the Honorable Afenyo Markin is here, the Honorable Katie is here, the Honorable Attache, you are here, and the Minister of Finance will be contemplating some lawyer from somewhere. The center cannot hold, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the center simply cannot hold. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I move that the state of the economy, and Mr. Speaker, I quote, this is what the President himself said, and Mr. Speaker, that must invite my colleagues opposite, that this is not a matter personal to Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, persons who borrow money for purposes of their business, $3 million probably in 2019-2020, are made to cough 28-30 million Ghana cedis. Businesses are collapsing. And Mr. Speaker, the President had this to say on 30th October 2022. This was the President's admission, and he must take full responsibility. He said, and I quote, "The whole world has been taken aback by the speed with which inflation has eaten away people's income." My own words. So real income has suffered in Ghana for both public and civil servants. Your income can no longer buy the basket of goods and services that a month ago you could afford to buy. It means that you buy less. Mr. Speaker, so our debt is unsustainable. Few years ago, Mr. Speaker, when the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta appeared in this House, he proudly, with pride, said that rating agencies were rating Ghana well and that we were B3 stable and probably moving towards A. Today, Mr. Speaker, whether it's Fitch or Moody's or Standard & Poor's, our rating, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to point out his contradiction. In 2018, Mr. Speaker, this is what he said. Mr. Speaker, over the last 10 months, Ghana's credit ratings witnessed some positive momentum after years of deterioration. So probably blame NDC for the deterioration. Today, yours have deteriorated more. Mr. Speaker, although Moody's affirms its September 2018 rating in 2027, Fitch Ratings maintained Ghana's B rating and changed the outlook from negative to stable. Today, what is Ghana's rating? Under Ken Ofori-Atta, who hails sovereign ratings by Fitch, Moody, is now challenging their rating about Ghana. When he was confronted with the fact and reality, he chose to challenge this credible international institutions. Fitch has downgraded Ghana to CCC. Fitch was worried about uncertain pace of fiscal consolidation, tight external debt service schedule, weaker near-term growth, and warned that inflation could peak. Indeed, it has peaked. Today, inflation is at 40.4%. And Mr. Speaker, as I said, the Bank of Ghana is involved in emergency financing, justified under the law, but in breach of the threshold which is required of them. We trust that the Governor of the Bank of Ghana will maintain his independence and credibility and refuse and turn away the interference of the Minister of Finance into wanting to railroad his way into having access to that. Mr. Speaker, we have also, and Mr. Speaker, I'm concluding, it's disconcerting to hear news about 100 million of petroleum funds being used for unapproved expenditure. And Mr. Speaker, with respect, I refer you to Section 3 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act of 2011, Act 815. It's explicit. I see former Minister for Energy, Ameu. You are familiar with the law. It states, all petroleum revenue due the Republic, derived from whatever source, shall be assessed, collected, and accounted for by the Ghana Revenue Authority. In addition, Section 15 of the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act 2016, Act 919, is also clear that any... Mr. Speaker, it's clear that any borrowing exceeding the city equivalent of 30 million United States dollars for the purpose of exploration, development, and production shall be approved by Parliament and shall be in consonance with the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Account for this 100 million because the PIAC report captures that you paid it without parliamentary approval. Mr. Speaker, this is enough for him to say that he is not managing our public resources well. Contingent liability. I dealt with the issue of Sino-Hydro. You don't have paper to pay for the tomatoes you got. You have to pay with money. Mr. Speaker, today they want us to believe them. And when we say that the Honorable Minister for Finance and his data bank benefited from some of this borrowing, you all recall his answer to a question in Parliament here when he shared the numbers of what data bank benefited from those. So, Mr. Speaker, his removal cannot wait. And I urge my colleagues opposite to support us on this side of the House. Atu has the details. To support us, because, Mr. Speaker, we do not pretend as the minority to have to test majority. We do not pretend. We don't have it. The Ghanaian people give us 137. But we pray that into the future, recognizing that we stand with them and we reflect their aspirations and that we will not abandon them halfway, they probably will stand with us into the future. Mr. Speaker, it's on the strength of this and on the strength of many variables, including imports. Mr. Speaker, how much we spend on imports, whether it's rice, whether it's chicken, whether it's oil, we are very, very capable of producing it in Ghana. It is the only point I agree with the President, that we must cut the heavy imports. We should, and we should support him. But he must come with far-reaching policies and major investment in the agricultural sector for us to be able to achieve that. But, Mr. Speaker, trust and confidence issue is the same government who said we will not go to IMF. You are back to IMF. How can we believe you that you have a commitment to cut imports? Mr. Speaker, it is on the strength of this that today I stand on behalf of these gallant men and women in the minority and pray that the majority leader, who courageously have publicly manifested that there is weight in our demand for the exit of the minister, will stand firm with his public declaration. That public declaration, Mr. Speaker, will do parliamentary accountability and oversight a lot of good into the future. That someday, tomorrow, we can stand together to censure and remove non-performing, incompetent ministers who mismanage this economy, lead our ordinary citizens into unacceptable hardship, and our concern is there simply is no hope inside. With this, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. Yeah.